Hello, today we are gonna talk about Duelyst. Duelyst is a game for PC and Mac, and it looks a bit like chess meets Hearthstone for those of you who are familiar with what that means. So you move some units on a grid in the fashion of many tactics RPGs. But then you also have cards that give powers to the units, or actually are the units themselves. The game is really good, and this project started as a Kickstarter funded project already in 2016, if I'm correct. Now, what's interesting about this campaign? I think the most interesting thing is that it started as a single-player game, and it changed it completely over time. The game started with just a few units, just a few factions, and the final game kind of still looks like this. But while they just after the funding of the project, they started to think maybe we're doing something wrong with our business model. Like the pledges were the price is average. I think I paid 15 bucks to get the early access to the early bird for the game, and that gave me in theory, in the original campaign, it gave me the access to the full game, and then when they made the change in the business model, they kind of compensated me for that. I will go into that in a moment. What's interesting here is that they had this goal, 68,000, and they made about twice as much, so 137,000. Now, I don't know how familiar you are with funding and how much does it cost to make a video game, but I can promise you that this amount does not cover the cost of a video game, not by far. This might cover the cost of a rent of an office in a very in a capital somewhere for maybe 1 year, 1.5 years. Okay, I'm not joking. Unfortunately, the cost of making video games it's incredibly high, especially if you're hiring professionals to help you with art, to help you with programming, to help you with server stuff. So to be honest, like even if this looks like a success, I'm not sure what is their original plan. They never really shared it. I'm sure that they were thinking that they would get some parallel funding somewhere else, maybe their own money, or maybe they had actual investors. So what was promised with the original campaign? Let's see if we can find. Okay, so there would be more than 100 units. And let's see here, there would be this faction, so let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay. Yeah, they also made like some miniatures, etc., but these were kind of extra stuff. And then you would get like the main game. Now after yeah, okay, there was the art of Duelyst. As you can see, the art is very pretty. Let's see if I can find what did I pay for. Oh yeah, they had that's interesting, they also had the stretch goals for other platform, but they never reached the console, and to this day the game is not available on mobile, which I think would be a perfect match, or console, which also would be really cool. What happened on this date? Let's see if we can find it. February. Oh, actually, I made a mistake. The game was this Kickstarter was launched in 2014. I thought 2016, but yeah. So after a few months that the game was funded, they posted this update. It was the number 44. So it was already possible to try the game before that, and they said this thing. Here's what we're doing. We are shifting Duelyst towards a free-to-play model. Simply put, our vision and scope for Duelyst far exceeds the original Kickstarter, which was simply a simple game with only 7 units per faction and a smattering of neutrals. If you check the game now, it is published by Namco Bandai, and I don't know how many units there are at this point, but I think we are in the order of thousands. And even when it comes to the factions, I think where we are far beyond the initial 5. I would say it's 7. I haven't played in a bit, so it might be more. There's been several expansions added and a lot of new features. So instead of having this self-contained game, they would go the full Hearthstone model. So you would pay to buy some deck of cards. Usually, in the game there are some kind of cores that you open, and each one contains 5 cards, or I think there are even different numbers. Like the economy there is pretty complicated. They have different currencies, etc. But pretty much is that you pay something, you get some cards. Okay, you don't know which cards you're getting beforehand. It's a bit like buying the physical cards. And what they did for the backers is that they would compensate you, giving you a lot of currency, all that they promise in this campaign. So you will get all those factions, and there are also some special units that unlock only for the Kickstarter backers. But on top of that, you will get this currency that would allow you to buy a shitload of cards, and for a long time that was more than enough to play to a decent level. And for the $15 that I paid, that I thought it was a very good deal. They were specifying, here's not what we're doing. It will remain the same game, and I think they kind of made good to the promise, because it is pretty much the same game. The only thing that changes is that now you do not get new cards only through skills. You buy packages, and there are cards. There are microtransactions. Okay. Why do that? Because the potential for incomes is much higher when you have a potentially infinite amount of things that people can buy. Okay. Here they go into details, but I encourage you to check the campaign if you want to see exactly what changed. As they can say, product sustainability. If you want to make a game of this kind, this game is perfect for that kind of model. And I don't know if they didn't think about it in the beginning, or they were afraid to suggest a free-to-play game on Kickstarter, because those usually don't go down very well. And in fact, as you can see, the comments under here are pretty rough. This is extremely disappointing. And then I did not back a free-to-play game, etc. I have to say that a couple of years after the fact, even 3 years after the fact, this was the right choice to do. As they are saying here, doing this move allows the game to be free to download, and that brings in a lot more players that are necessary for a game like this. Because yes, there are some single player challenges that you can do, but the fun and the tournaments and all that goes around competitive gaming is much more precious for a game of this kind than getting money up front. So the decision was correct. One thing that they didn't do, which I think they should have done in the beginning, is that in this update they do not mention that if you're unhappy with this move, we will give you a refund. They suggested that only when people started to complain and ask their money back, and at that point, for those wishing for a refund, we'll have details on our next update. At that point, they suggested it, but they should have done it from the beginning, because if you're confident that this is the right choice, you're also confident that most of the people will not ask for the money back. And I didn't ask for the money back. I was interested in seeing where this would go. Of course, I was a bit disappointed, because free to play can go in a really in the really wrong direction. But if you try the game right now, I have it here installed on my desktop. It's down here, Duelyst. So that was exactly what this game had to do from the very beginning. It might have not been the best way to present the project on Kickstarter, but genuinely, I think they thought about changing the business model afterward. Probably talking with publishers, and publishers say, listen, we want to help getting this game around, but you need to do something because there's not enough money for us in here. So takeaway from this campaign is that yes, you can change things if you realize you made a mistake, but be extremely transparent with players, and I think they did it here in the explanation. It's pretty clear why they're doing it, and it completely makes sense if you understand the industry of video games a bit. What they could have done better is that they should have offered a refund right away, because what you find out in most cases is that people will not take the refund. This is it for today. Thank you for following, and subscribe to the channel if you found this useful.